Okay, this is a video that I've wanted to put together for a long time, and I've been waiting for the optimum time to actually share some things with you and just look at my studio and share with you some of the tips, tricks, lessons learned, pitfalls, watch outs, and shortcuts that I've learnt along the way as I've been broadcasting my DJ streams since 2017 on different platforms with various different pieces of hardware and software. So yeah, I'm going to call this the ultimate guide to DJ streaming on steroids. Okay, some quick housekeeping before we get to the good stuff. Firstly, this is not about building a community or likes or followers or anything like that. This is not about that. I'm a small streamer. I'm building up gradually on different platforms, but this is purely about the quality of your output. And I believe that if you can optimize that quality and that consistency, the other stuff will come along with it, and it should be common sense. And if you share the values that you have as a streamer, as I'm doing now on this very video, you can gain followers and you can gain likes ergonomically. You don't need to worry about that. That has never been my focus, but I wanted to share with you some of the gains that I've had as I've been going along. Second part of this, from a housekeeping point of view, this is not about streaming on a budget. I have over years and years and years invested in different pieces of equipment, and through that journey there's been different stages of complexity, and it's at the stage now where it's probably as optimum as I can get it, and I wanted to share with you some of the shortcuts. So if you were to take that next step up the ladder, this may help you in some way to actually achieve that better quality output in your own streams. Okay, let's kick things off then. So the first thing that I would say, absolutely first off the bat, you need consistent branding. Now, before I started streaming, I've been a producer for maybe 20, 30 years in different guises of different levels of experience and stuff. Had some amazing adventures along the way and things, and it was only in 2017 that I started to stream. About 2012, 2013, I created my own website, had its own unique branding. It was to support my releases and offline mix sets onto different platforms like SoundCloud and Mixcloud and previous iterations that there were then. Nothing about the visual side of it, and it's only since 2017, pre-lockdown, that I started to broadcast on Facebook. Very simple thing, mobile phone, Serato, away you go. And that's how it all started. From this, it's been an adventure, and to actually get to this level of detail, I want to break it down with you a little bit now. So I use a Sound Blaster card in the back of my main laptop, and it takes the signal from my main Serato turntables into the streaming laptop. Now, what I would say is I originally started to use the Serato and OBS software on the same laptop. Ran into all sorts of horrendous processing crashes, etc. You need to learn what the limitations are with the equipment that you've got and not to overload it. So one of the first pieces of investment after I've moved on to OBS was to actually separate them out into two separate areas. So I have an old laptop that I now have as a dedicated Serato laptop, switch all of the kit and caboodle off, no bloatware, no Wi-Fi signal so it can optimize for the streaming laptop, and I just send the signal as it is without any stress on the processor for the streaming laptop into the OBS, and it's much easier to do that way. And if you are to invest and expand your system, I would absolutely recommend that is the first step up the ladder that you need to make. So this is my main set of turntables. This is the DDJ FLX10. Absolutely fresh out the box. I only received this from the mailman on Tuesday of this week, and yeah, it's amazing. Now, it doesn't really matter what controller you use, as long as you're accustomed to it, you're having fun with it along the way. That is the main side of it. But one of the things that I do try and do is vary the camera angles. So I do have a top-down view. I also have other camera angles as well that you can see and interact with around the studio. But from a kickoff, I would say if you want to go for two different cameras, the top down on the actual turntables that you're using to actually show the different areas, the different tips and tricks that you're working on, that's definitely the next step up that I would advise you to do. Okay, with OBS comes a lot of opportunities to put your brand front and center. I use branding within the OBS scenes that I've got very, very strongly and consistently through the broadcast. So if I just show you the main screen that I use. This is the main screen with all of the different layouts that I use. As you can see, it's got the Epicast number, the series number that I use in the corner, with branding that's used consistently just to make it pop out. And you can see, obviously, still see what's going on, but you've still got all of like the socials and other things like a sound spectralizer at the bottom as well. But it all helps to like the branding and stuff. But yeah, if you see that with the turntable over the top, you can still see everything. So I've minimized it over to the corners. So the branding is non-intrusive as much as possible. That is important to try and sort of like keep the focus actually on the work in hand, but you've got all of the other elements coming on as well. You do have the opportunity through Twitch, etc., to put your own overlays on as well. I use those intermittently on different scenes, depending on what mood takes me on the different scenes and stuff. But I do have those as well. Okay, the other thing that's quite important within my streamer setup, I have a second DDJ controller. Quite early doors when I was first trying out different streams and podcasts and stuff, I invested in a new controller. I retained the old one as a backup, but then I thought, well, why don't I just get it out of storage and actually daisy chain it into the back? So there's a sound coming out of my previous controller into my primary one. So if I just show you this very quickly, this actually is an old controller. I've obviously optimized and upgraded since then, but this is actually just a backup set of controllers that I use primarily for doing things like adding white noise effects into the background, different samples. I also have various loops for things like acapellas, different synth riffs, and different samples in addition to the one that I have on the main deck. So for instance, things like, let's have a look.
Home of the big beat.
Hey DJ! Give me a fat beat!
Now I have all of those also on the main set of turntables, but what it does is it allows you to have double the amount of presets. So I have double the amount of sample pads on here to here as well, and also I can then layer on. So for instance, between transitions, I can have another riff, another acapella playing at the consistent BPM, and the transitions seem more fluid. So that's something that I've done quite early doors in my journey on my streaming as well. So again, it doesn't really matter if you only have the one. You do have the opportunity on most, even the budget controllers, to actually have decks 3 and 4 unlocked as buttons on here, so you can still do that. I choose to just have it as a separate entity, so it makes it easier for me to actually map things out and have double the amount of capacity. But again, that's just the way that I've mapped it. But if you have the opportunity to do that and retain your previous controller, I would advise that you do that just as another option. And also looks pretty cool that there's actually two side by side. If I go to another angle, top shelf cam, this looks amazing. It reminds me of as though like I'm watching sort of like a concert in the 1980s, and you'd have like maybe Howard Jones or Thomas Dolby or someone actually riffing off different keyboards and sequences at the same time. It's not needed, but it's just an optimum thing that I've used on my streams, and it helps me sort of like just vary a little bit from just having like the simple camera angles and the simple controllers that I've got on my stream. Now, another investment that's only happened probably about 18 months ago, something like that. I started to use a piece of software called Synesthesia, which is an audio reactive set of visuals that you can actually put into playlists. You can customize your own presets. You can import different scenes from shadertoy.com and other websites similar to that. Very powerful, and you can actually pick and choose and change the presets to actually flow with the actual music, which is a very powerful tool that I use in my broadcast. But just show you an example, if I put all of my layers on and start some music, just something random. Immediately you can see it's much more dynamic. It feels much more sort of powerful. You can feel the sort of like the groove of the music and things going on. Synesthesia also varies it, so you've got so much sort of potential. You can also add in your own artwork, your own sort of animations. You can also use different cameras as inputs into your stream as well. The opportunities become endless. It's amazing. So I started using Synesthesia. Let me just stop that that in a minute. Started using Synesthesia, and what I then found as I was going along with my previous laptop is that Synesthesia and OBS were then maxing out, and it was having a frame rate issue on my OBS. You know what's coming up, don't you? So I've invested in a better, more sort of powerful laptop that can cope with synesthesia, cope with the visuals that are coming through from that as a spout input into the back. Now, there are many, many different sort of like YouTube tutorials to go through that. I won't go too much into it, but it's worth checking out. It's so simple. Even if you get it out the box, you can use synesthesia as a different set of visuals. And obviously, I can still stream on OBS, and the frame rate is consistent. What I would advise is that you just test out how much quality you can have. I started streaming on OBS at 720p, and in my previous laptop's sort of like capacity, that was about as much as I could go with it. With the current iterants I have of OBS and the laptop that I'm using, and maxing out everything, 1080p is what I normally broadcast at when I'm live streaming. I also use 1080p as well for when I'm uploading videos afterwards onto YouTube, etc. It seems to be sort of like the happy medium that I've got. 4K, I can use 4K, but because I have maxed out the amount of cameras that I've got on the different sort of scenes, etc., I find it struggles with it. So 1080p is my Goldilocks zone for different cameras, etc. One of the things that I mentioned earlier on in this video is if you can start with having two cameras, just to vary it a little bit. So I have the main camera that I speak to the audience, the community on as I'm broadcasting, and you can also see the turntables on its side view and stuff. I then started to use a second camera, which is a top-down camera. You can see all of the intricate sort of technical aspects of what I'm doing on the mix for people that want to be a bit of a train spotter or, you know, learn what I'm using, etc. For me, I'm still learning this because it's a brand new set of turntables for me. But that is the starting point. I have since then expanded, and what I found very quickly is that native webcams are not very good quality for what I need them to perform. I tried various different ones that were 720, even 1080p ones. For some reason, the crispness, I couldn't get a native one to work until recently. What I found was the best solution was to start using GoPros. And GoPros have really served me well. Now, you need to make sure you get one that has a HDMI input in the side. You need to get the GoPro Hero 7 Black, not the silver. Silver doesn't have the input into it. I found this out the hard way. So you need to get the GoPro Hero 7 Black. And you then need to buy a capture card. Now, you can get all variety of different capture cards, and as I said at the beginning of talking about the video quality, 1080p is my Goldilocks zone. You don't need to buy anything above that. I've got, for some other uses, I have got a camera hub capture card from Elgato, and it's at 4K. And in my old laptop's first instance of using GoPro, it used to crash, it used to flicker, it used to max out all of the processor because it's obviously capturing stuff at higher resolution. 1080p, I use the cheapest capture card off Amazon or other websites, etc. And it does the job because I have that much other stuff going on. As long as your stream is of a quality, the music's good, you're engaging with the audience, the actual quality of the image is less important. And also, I find it's a good quality anyway. That was my starting point, so I started using a GoPro. I also like the fact that the fisheye lens, so panoramic, it captures so much depth of field, and it can get all sorts of the peripheral elements. And even if I'm sort of like going onto this laptop, even if I'm not using the other set of like cameras, etc., I can still be in shot. When I started to think, I like these things, why don't I get another GoPro? So I got another GoPro, and in addition to this view, as you've seen, I've got the reverse camera view, so I've got the second set of turntables. You can see that side of it and puts the focus on the second turntables. I've also got a top shelf camera, which is the one I showed you earlier. So this is obviously a different, more dynamic view. I like this view. It's very, very sort of dramatic for when I'm, in action, and you can actually see all of the different elements to it. Just again, as a variety. I said to you that GoPro was my go-to solution for using different cameras and stuff. I do have other camera sources as well. Okay, so this is a plug-in Elgato face cam. The Elgato Facecam is as good as you can get at the moment anyway to having, I found, a plug-in solution directly, natively in USB without using a capture card. I'm not using the Facecam Pro because, as I said, the Goldilocks zone that I use is 1080p. It's not 4K. You can get the Facecam Pro that is 60 FPS, 4K. I broadcast in 1080p, 30 frames per second, and that's my sweet spot. So you don't need to go all out guns a-blazing, or I certainly choose not to do that. With the Camera Hub software, you can also make the image pop. The native settings and the auto-adjust settings, I don't like them. I also have another Elgato Facecam that I use for these turntables. So that is also up here. That is another Elgato camera that I've got as well. Now, you may be asking, how on earth do I get all of these inputs into my stream? Well, I have another laptop. I know some people use like the A10 Mini hub for different HDMI outputs. I know about 3 or 4 streamers that use that solution. Because I had my old laptop that I wasn't now using for OBS directly, and I also upgraded my Stream Deck from the Stream Deck regular to the XL, I now had 2 Stream Decks. So a Stream Deck surplus that I could then plug into another laptop meant that I could use my old laptop's USB inputs directly. Again, no sort of lag, no sort of processing peaks and troughs on the streaming laptop. And I created another instance of OBS completely separate to the streaming instance. And through this second visuals laptop, I could then use full screen projector mode within OBS through the HDMI out into my high quality capture card into my main streaming laptop. I now have 5 cameras that go into it. So I've got 3 GoPros, I have 2 Elgato Facecams. I have left 1 instance of a native webcam that is on my regular streaming laptop, and the reason I've done that is because I have other visuals that I put in through Synesthesia. So for instance, if I just start something again, play it in the background, as you can see, Synesthesia is doing its thing. I also sometimes talk directly to the community through here, but I keep it very sort of like monotone. I don't use the regular colours on it, but it really pops out in black and white. So I use that as another camera. So that means I have 6 cameras in total. This is the only one that's native. Okay. What I did find to achieve, obviously, all of these cameras to run off that visuals laptop in the corner here, I needed a more powerful one. So one of the latest investments that I've had was to actually have a Lenovo Legion streaming laptop, a gaming laptop that's very high quality, and most importantly, it has 6 USB inputs built in as standard. I would advise, if possible, to try and plug in your devices without the use of a hub. I do use a hub for more of the sort of like peripheral tasks on my stream and stuff. But the issue that you have there is that all of the devices are fed through one link to your laptop, and you can get lag. So you may find things like your Stream Deck may suffer lag if you have multiple devices and it's plugged in through a USB hub. So that's another tip that I've found the hard way as well. The final sort of like piece of the jigsaw that I've used is I have a second license for Synesthesia on this new laptop in the corner here. Now this means I can use multiple overlays on the scene simultaneously. So it means that we have different audio reactions going on, multiple combinations, you know, infinite almost combinations of things going on. I'll show you an instance of what that looks like compared to just having one instance, so just bear with me. Okay, so this has got Synesthesia running in the background. Let's start some music. One instance of Synesthesia. Let's add on a second layer. Look at that. Look at the difference there. I love this effect, and I love the fact that it's sort of like it's bouncy around the music that's going on as well. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And the other advantage of having a second laptop that you can actually see the scenes on. I've had instances where the GoPro camera, let me just stop this, the GoPro camera has overheated and switched itself off. I could actually see it before I selected the scene in question on this other instance to stop the issue affecting the actual live stream that was going through. So another top tip. The way that I dealt with that is because you're actually plugging it directly in, not through a battery, but through a mains. I've taken out the battery. By having the battery pack out of the GoPro, it keeps it cool, and I have never had an instance with it where it's overheated and switched itself off. All three of them. Some of them were worse than others, but now all of them are absolutely spot on. Okay, your B-roll. Your B-roll is another variant because I think audiences like to see faces on different streams, but it's not about look at me, it's about listen to the music and look at the visuals, and I'm only part of that combination. So my B-roll is a way of actually breaking up looking at me and actually letting the visuals be front and centre. As an example, just randomly, I'll pick one at random. There you go. That was actually developed through various means. Now, part of that is done through, you can get stock video footage that's free to use. I've also created my own animations and overlaid them on top. Lots and lots and lots of different ones. That's another one. I use Adobe Premiere to do that. But yeah, you can use other alternatives as well, such as DaVinci Resolve. They all do the same sort of thing. But I found that unlocking AI as a base for actually a canvas for creating individual B-roll animations and loops has been a godsend. It's also worth mentioning as well, natively in OBS, there isn't a way of shuffling different animations around. There is a cheat for this, but you have to have a Stream Deck, okay? There is a random action command within Stream Deck, not on OBS. That random action, you can actually assign different playlists for different scenarios. For instance, this is my breakdown random action. I have a variance of it, and I can choose to put a different one in there. Just as an example, slight variation on that. I also have random strobe effects. There's a strobe effect. I also have different random strobe effects that can come on as well. Through the random action command, you can use one button for multiple variants on a theme. So I have presets for breakdowns, presets for strobes, presets for fireworks, presets for intros, presets for outros, presets for the different B-roll. I have hundreds and hundreds of B-rolls that I've amalgamated over the many years that I've been putting the visuals together. So many of them, and I've got a button that basically is just random B-roll. Random one, any random one. There we go, this one, whatever this one is. Just a random B-roll. Just and again, it loops. I can be playing, or maybe I need to go take a break or get another beer or something. I don't know, but I can put that in the background, and that will do it. And yeah, you can have variants on a theme. Another one will come up, and it's all random. It makes the system, the OBS system, do the work for you. All I need to know is that some sort of B-roll is playing, some sort of strobe effect is playing at key points that matter in the journey of the mix that I'm putting together. I can then focus on just doing the mix. Don't need to worry about which presets I'm scrolling through in OBS. It's all done for me. Absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. Yeah. So my advice would be get creative. Even if you have a basic setup, B-rolls can be your cheat sheet, your way of actually just breaking up, looking at a static camera. You could also try doing different things like through OBS creating another scene that's maybe got more of a close-up than previously. I've done that in the past. But also we're getting creative with nested scenes, so you don't affect the actual master copy of a camera angle. But just as a for instance, take a look at this. Look at that. Now that is the same camera angle that we were looking at previously, but I've put a nested effect in there, and I can manipulate each of the layers of the colours to actually put that effect together, and I've got variants on that as well. So this is another one, again, different effects over the top. You can have infinite possibilities. This, for instance, change the camera angle, put this one on instead. So you've got this sort of like jagged sort of effect going on with the different sort of like colour hues and stuff like that. Take inspiration from different streamers. I looked at Jerome Issa May's stream, and this is one that's copied from him. I just basically took the elements and created them. But you don't need to be, you don't need to have rocket science to do this. It could be something very simple, like, for instance, just putting in a cityscape. So this is basically just a loop of different sort of like visuals of nighttime, sort of like Manhattan skyline or wherever it might be, and that will just vary up a little bit, just to give you a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a variance on it. In addition to that, I have other things like this guy here, again on a loop. It just adds a little bit of variety to the set, and there's all sorts of different things that I'll put in. So for instance, this lady here, Strobe Girl, as she's called on my stream deck, and again it adds a little bit of variety. You can put all sorts of different things on there. You can get stock video footage. You can layer it in OBS using things like Luma Key and different sort of like masked edges and stuff like that. Just have a play around. I would definitely advise that you try and do that. Okay, even if you don't own a stream deck, you can use hotkeys within OBS to actually do the same thing. So for instance, for main camera, you may use to choose Control and M to actually flick to it. For your intro, you may choose to use Control and 1. For your outro, you may choose to do Control and 2. I actually do that, by the way. You know, you can actually make shortcuts to save you scrolling through all of your different scenes within OBS, just to make it a little bit easier so your flow is undistracted with other elements going on. You click on a button and you can continue doing your mix and you don't need to worry about it. Okay, getting towards the refined element of the elements that we've actually crafted within the studio. When I go live, I can't just immediately switch everything on. I need to do pre-flight checks. There are so many elements because I'm using multiple pieces of hardware that could go wrong. One of the common things that is an issue on the Serato laptop, and sometimes on the main OBS laptop, Windows has Update Wednesdays, and I go live on Fridays. It means that maybe every other week, every 2 or 3 weeks, there is a Windows patch. And the way that it's sent through to your laptop, it's in the background, in the virtual memory. And I found it's really made my processing power struggle. So I always check for Windows updates before I do anything. And I've got to do it on all of the multiple laptops. So it is a bit of a pain, but it's worth it for that flow. I would also advise that you restart your laptops. Don't leave anything in temporary memory. It basically gives it a clean, fresh, reliable build. When you start your broadcast, you're not having any sort of lag, any sort of like audio dropout, frame rate dropout, or anything like that. So restart before you start broadcasting. The other final bit of pre-flight checks that I do, my audio through the Sound Blaster sound card sometimes doesn't activate in OBS. No idea why. It just happens now and again. So I can be, you know, doing my own thing. I can hear the audio from the separate Serato laptop, but that feed isn't going into OBS and it's completely muted. And I've had it a few times early doors where I've been streaming, live streaming, and it's been completely silent. And people have been, you know, appearing on the chat and saying, we can't hear anything. And the only way that I can do it is to actually stop the broadcast, unplug the Sound Blaster card, plug it back in again, start the broadcast again. It's all in the preparation. I can't stress that enough. It really is important. So do your pre-flight checks, get into the good routine with it, and you'll have some really good streams. The other final bit of advice that I must tell you to do, get a fan in the studio, an electronic fan. It has been a lifesaver. I am cooking now, and normally I have it in the background because I've got the music playing, but because there's no music on this tutorial, I'm absolutely sweating buckets. So buy an electronic fan. Okay, I hope that you found this tutorial interesting. Hopefully it's been valuable and it's saved you a little bit of time and trial and error that I've had to go through the years and years of actually expanding it. And like I say, it's about starting small, optimizing and knowing what the limitations are of the equipment that you've got, and then when you can expand it, do it in a way that's going to be efficient and doesn't, you know, give you any sort of glitches on any of your streams. And yeah, good luck on your journey, and we'll catch up again soon. Bye bye for now.